Hello, folks, and welcome to the podcast. I've taken a couple months off as we moved our Defiance Ventures office and podcast studio, so it's been a while. It's good to be back, and hopefully podcasting is like riding a bike. Today should be a really fun one. I'm a big believer myself in personal fitness, and especially in high interval intensity training. My guests today created West Kept Secret, a woman-owned boutique gym here in Charlotte. I am joined by Marissa West and Heidi Hillman. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me remotely today.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. We're super excited to be here.
Great. So, Marissa, can you tell the guests what West Kept Secret is?
Absolutely. So West Kept Secret is a high intensity interval workout. We fuse together three different modalities of fitness, which includes Pilates, strength training, and cardio. And essentially we take those three different workout modalities and we combine them all into a high intensity circuit to truly deliver, in my opinion, the best results that you can find, not only in Charlotte or the US, but in the world.
That's awesome. And what does a typical customer or client of yours look like at this point?
Really, it's anyone and everyone. So we have clients that are truly expert professional athletes, kind of top drawer, who are looking to take their fitness to the next level. And we have all the way down to people who have never stepped foot in a gym, truly novice exercisers, and then everyone in between, because our workout is modifiable or provides advancements for every level.
So I've been a CrossFitter for 5 or 6 years, and the format there is that we have, as I'm sure you're aware, we have a workout of the day, and some gyms will have a fundamentals workout for people who are getting started or foundations. But generally speaking, everybody's doing the same workout, and then maybe they layer in something that's a little bit more cardio intense or boot camp like. Do you have a single workout of the day, but you just are able to modify that for each of your clients, or do you do separate workout plans depending on the level of fitness?
That's a great question. And so I'm super familiar with CrossFit. I've done it many times in the past. I think it's a great workout. We do have essentially a WOD, a workout of the day. We don't call it that, but it's the same workout that we're doing from the 5:30 a.m. class all the way up to our evening class and in between. And then we are again able to modify or advance those specific movements for each individual who comes in. So if you think about our workout, we'll have anywhere from 6 to 8 stations. And from there, the trainer is knowledgeable on how to advance each of those movements or modify each of those movements based on what you're seeing with the clients. And we have right now, especially due to COVID, we have 3 pieces of equipment at each station. Right now, our capacity is 30% capacity, which is only 12 people in class. So at each of those 6 stations, for example, you're seeing 2 people at each station. So if we have 2 people on a treadmill, 2 people on a Pilates reformer, 2 people on a boxing bag, so on and so forth. What's really cool is, again, the trainer will, for example, just using the Pilates reformer is a great example. If they see someone doing a plank movement and they are ready to take it up to their toes, they can run over and say, hey, you look like you're ready, give it a whirl and pop onto your toes. Hey, your back is dipping. Let's take it down and put you down to your knees. Maybe we even take you down to the floor. So that's just a quick example of how our trainers are able to modify clients down or advance them up and everything in between.
Very cool. I love that you are combining Pilates on one hand with a boxing bag on the other. Hopefully we get into some of these combinations. But before we go any further, can you just explain for the audience what high intensity interval training is? I take it for granted that everybody knows what it is, but there probably are some people out there who aren't as familiar with this style of working out.
Absolutely. And that is a great question. I think we do, especially as fitness professionals, we say it on Instagram or we have that on the website and we just assume what, people know what that means. And in addition, I think it's different for every fitness professional. So some fitness professionals deem high intensity interval training with very hard periods of work with long or medium periods of rest. For us, it's hard periods of work for about 50 minutes straight with minimal rest. So we have different intervals that range from more of a Tabata style interval, where it's 1 minute all out max effort, and you're doing that 6 rounds. And then you're multiplying that by 6 pieces of equipment. That's going to be close to about a 40-minute workout. And then we have a 5-minute high intensity warm up where you're essentially doing 5 different movements at a quick pace. And then of course, a very quick, minute or 2 cool down. But then we also have more of a durability style intervals that are a little bit longer, where our work to rest ratio is a little bit longer. But in general, what we kind of train to our trainers and teach them is 90 to 100% capacity at all times throughout the workout. And the rest breaks are around 10 seconds to rest and rotate. Now, of course, if somebody needs a longer rest, we always tell clients, you're going to get 10 seconds to rotate from the treadmill to the Pilates reformer. That's not enough time. What we recommend is getting into the movement, trying to do 1 or 2 reps, and then taking your break so that your body can get accustomed to the short breaks that you're going to get, and then they'll get smaller and smaller, and then your cardiovascular endurance will improve. So essentially it's 90% effort for 50 minutes up to 100%. So
Wow.
we're pretty hardcore.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't really realize, because they very rarely operate in that 90 to 100% range, what the effort is. I tell people, if you do an all-out sprint, I think you really need 5-to-1 recovery to really be able to maintain your pace. If you're actually going even 98%, I did a Tabata sprint, which for the listeners who don't know, it's 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest times 8. So a 4-minute workout. And I did an echo bike sprint with one a couple days ago. And my first sprint, I was able to get, I think, 21 calories. And by the 4th sprint, I'm eking out 6 calories. So it drops off pretty quickly when you're resting half as long as you're working. So I just point that out because it sounds like an ass kicking of a workout if you're going that high intensity for that long with very short rest periods.
For sure. And the reason how it works is, and why it works, and the mechanics behind it, and kind of some of a little bit of the geeky stuff, is you're able to essentially, our hope is that, clients are able to do that 90 to 100% because they're there typically for 1 minute up to 2 on that one machine. And then they're moving to a totally different style of fitness. So if they're going from cardio on the treadmill, 1 minute all out sprint, and then they're popping out into a Pilates reformer for example, some kind of lunging series, 30 seconds right, 30 seconds left, they're able to catch their breath, kind of switch over from the fast switch muscle fibers, moving on to the slow twitch muscle fibers. And it gives that nice kind of balance and recovery. And then boom, now you're back to the boxing bag, for example, all out on a core ball burpee punch. And then you move to the bar that we have. And now we go back to Pilates, moving into the slow twitch muscle fibers. So it works in that sense, and that you're not doing cardio all out for 6 stations. So it's a pretty cool way of looking at it. She said sometimes, but it's a pretty cool way of still allowing your body to go all out, but getting that little bit of recovery because you're switching the muscle fibers that you're focusing on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That sounds like a really cool workout. So Heidi, do I have this right? Did you start out as a client of West Kept
That is
Secret?
correct.
Can you talk about what attracted you to the concept as a client, and then what you do for the business now, and just kind of talk about that dynamic of transitioning from client to helping to run the place?
What doesn't Heidi do?
Definitely.
She does everything.
So yeah, I started as a personal training client. I actually looked this up the other day. It was August 2017.
Okay.
And what drew me to Marissa, because at that point it was just her doing personal training. That was what the business model was. I was a trainer at another studio that focused solely on like a Pilates based workout. And Marissa would come to that studio. So I would be a teacher when she would take class. And she didn't come every single day. So I was always kind of wondering, like, she looked so great. I could see like her ab lines on the machines. And I was kind of like, what else is she doing? Because all I was doing was that workout. And I didn't feel like I was seeing results. And I was, younger in my, mid 20s. And I'm thinking like, I should be able to be, getting to that point. Why is it not working? So after just talking with her after class a couple of times, that's when I found out that she was a personal trainer and owned her own company in the neighborhood. And, I had reached out actually in January for information. And it wasn't until July that I was, in a bathing suit in the summer. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, I work out every day at this Pilates style studio, but I'm not getting the results I want. So finally, I committed in July. I started August 1st. And that it was basically just saying, okay, as a client, you're going to look for a trainer whose body type and style that you want to emulate. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if someone sees someone with big muscles and they want big muscles, that's probably someone that you should be working out with. If they're fit or they're cut or shredded or thin or whatever, and that's what you want your body to look like, then it's like, okay, how can I train like she or he is training? And then they obviously can do that for you, especially if they're a certified personal trainer. So I was excited to join on. When I did become a personal training client in August, I basically did everything Marissa told me to do from the jump, because it's expensive, it's an expense in your budget. So why waste it? And I was seeing her twice a week. She had mapped out my perfect workout week, which included a lot more cardio than I was used to. That's when I started to kind of shed the weight. And then the Pilates element and the strength was toning me up. And by Thanksgiving, I had not had a sip of alcohol. I had eaten and done all the workouts she had said, and my body just completely transformed. So I would say like by mid-November, I was like, wow, this works. This is amazing. And, she, at that point, I took like her last spot on her PT calendar. I mean, to where she could at least still have a break, eat lunch, and get her own workouts in every day. So from there, I was kind of on the treadmill one day when we were warming up, and I said, you need to be doing more people need to know about this. You need to do this more on a massive scale, because, if you're only helping 30 people in a week for 5 years, you're missing out on, 30 people in one class. So eventually she was like, well, I'm tapped out and tired. Do you want to teach group classes? Because it worked for you. You've been doing it and you've taught a group class before. So it really, made me feel passionate and motivated to get my certification and do that with her. I didn't technically start. I shadowed her a lot through the end of that year into the next spring, and then really started to really teach her on April 2018. And we were just doing 5 to 6 people in a small group setting at the Plaza Midwood studio, which is all that it fit, about 500, 600 square foot space. And then from there, it was like, how can we do this on a bigger scale? You need to be looking at commercial space. And Marissa just was, amazing till this day. Just, well, why don't you come with me to look at spaces? Why don't you become this, do that? And ultimately becoming an equity partner. And now I actually am still a personal training client of Marissa's. I see her once a week and I pay for it to hold me accountable. I do get a little bit of a discount, but don't tell anyone that. And then as far as what I do for the business, I think the best way to say it is Marissa's our chief executive officer, chief exercise officer. As you heard in the first couple of answers she gave you, it's all programming, all intervals, all exercising all the time. That is her bread and butter. She's so good at it. I'm kind of the chief operating officer. So managing our trainers, hiring, social media, the websites, the streaming. The list goes on, but I'm just more operational stuff on the back end. And then both of us still teach classes weekly at the studio on the mic.
That's awesome. And how many people?
It's been a long road.
And I know you mentioned that you're constrained because of COVID and social distancing right now. What do you think? What is a typical class? Do all 12 of those spots fill up? And how many classes do you do per day? And where I'm trying to get at is how what you're talking about now is scalability, right? Like it started out as Marissa can do only so many hours in a day of personal training. So now we go into a group format and then we have multiple classes. And I'm curious how it scales, and maybe even if you could talk about how that starts to scale beyond COVID, and do you go to multiple locations? And you mentioned streaming, so that's the ultimate scalability. We all know a digital solution that can scale to millions of people if necessary. Can you maybe talk through that, how you guys think about all of that?
Absolutely. And I'll try to be quick, but basically when we started out having 5 to 6 people in class at the Plaza Studio, that's how many stations we had.
Okay.
So the goal was, how big of a space can we find in a place that we want, or we can just triple or quadruple or at least even double those stations. That was kind of when we landed on the bread and butter of like 3 per station is manageable for the trainer to help and give modifications and advancements. So when we wanted to open, we signed our lease in January 2020.
Yep.
And then we were, obviously we were excited. We were looking for builders, and then COVID hit, but we'd already signed our lease, and our landlord was really great about letting us kind of draw it out until it seemed like we would be able to open. Once we kind of got through all that, started the build in July, and we're able to open in October, we thought, okay, we're opening in a pandemic. And so the governor had said gyms can operate at a 30% capacity. So for us, that means 14 people technically, but that didn't equate to the 6 stations. So we thought 6 times 2 is 12. We'll keep it at 12 for now. If the governor were to say that North Carolina can operate at a 50% capacity, that would actually cover a full class for us. Because our capacity is so large, because our space is 2,200 square foot, that we could have 18 to 21 people in class if he were to go up to the 50%.
Yep.
So we were like, 12 is good. It'll actually give our trainers practice and give us practice to get around the room and see, like, is this, like you're saying, scalable? Can someone do this? Can only one trainer handle it? Do we need more than one trainer in the class, et cetera? And so that's where we started, and it's been great. We laugh all the time. Like, whenever we do get to have more people, it's going to be buck wild in here. But it's been really fun. All of our classes, thankfully, have been filling as time has gone on. We obviously have the mask mandate, and so I think that deters people a little bit. It is hard, but as of especially January 1, leading into these few weeks in February, even through the end of the month, all of our classes are completely booked on wait lists, and we're really thankful for that. We hope soon we can open up. Going back to streaming, when COVID hit, Marissa was in Seattle in the epicenter of where it all started. No, she was like out in the woods somewhere.
I wasn't in the actual.
Yes. And so when it was going down, her and her husband were like, we have to get back. And so I'm in North Carolina, and Marissa's like, we have to start thinking about streaming or Zooms or something virtual. And I was like, let's just, everyone at the beginning of COVID had no idea. And I was like, let's just wait a second, because I knew, as far as my operational role, how much toll that was going to take on me. And I knew how all the programming and doing all that for this was going to take on her. And there was just so many other items, finding music, the technology behind it, all the things. By the time she was in the air for 5 hours and landed, stuff had taken a turn with COVID, like in those 5 hours. So when she landed and called me, I was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think we are going to have to do this. And it wasn't what we wanted to do. We wanted to open first, then scale it with streaming and get that following up to then send it to other cities. But we kind of did it backwards, and we don't regret it. It was able to give our Charlotte clients something to sink their teeth into and hold on to during quarantine. We launched it on March 27th, which was about 10 days after we had to close our doors, which is insane.
Wow.
I mean, I rarely give ourselves props out, in interviews and media, because I think that's a little distasteful sometimes, but on streaming, I will pat ourselves on the back, because that was super badass in my opinion. We were recording videos day and night, editing them, getting them on the website. We had our developer we hired who was able to put it onto the site. And then we just kept recording. And now we still record once a month. And we have, as of last week, 70 videos in our library.
That's great. That's great.
It's $49.99 a month, unlimited, on demand. We have body part focuses, total body. And we really hope that is going to be what helps the expansion into other cities, because people will have done our workout prior.
Yeah, and with that kind of content and the right content-based marketing strategy, and not only will you sell subscriptions, but it will drive foot traffic when people are back in the mode of coming on site. It was interesting. I had a lady named Lauren Maccabee on the podcast, and she had a very successful yoga studio that had maxed out its capacity, and she was starting to look
right.
Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting, because I asked her, I said, did you think about virtual before the pandemic? And she said, yeah, but I'm a perfectionist, and I had to, like you said, it's a lot of energy. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. You want to do it perfectly, and you've got to have video equipment, and you've got to have a cloud solution provider, and you've got to have all these things. And she didn't feel like she was going to put the energy into it to do it the way that she wanted to do it. But then COVID forced her hand, and she was routinely at the time getting 150, 160 people coming onto these Zoom sessions and paying, you know, a monthly fee. And it occurred to her, she's like, I can scale this as far as I want to. There's really no limit. I don't have to worry about just my studio size. But it is interesting because to me, that's a sign of sometimes we let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Like she came up with a solution that's good enough, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Marissa's definitely I'm more of the optimist. Marissa's more of the perfectionist. I think we're both realists. And after streaming was up and running, we too were like, we need to do the Zoom, because what had happened was we hired all these trainers in February to help us. We wanted to get them trained up for the opening of the studio, which at that time was supposed to be like May or June. So we're like, we need to give them something to do. So we launched Zoom, and we were doing multiple Zoom classes a day and having, you know, you can have up to 100. And that was cool because they were interacting with us. They were seeing us. We were like letting them into our homes. They were letting us into their homes. And a lot of our Zoom people who we had never met are now members at our studio. And it's so funny to see them in person.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to the workout, but I want to make sure I cover a couple of other bases as well. So Marissa, can you maybe speak to what you were doing before you launched West Kept Secret? It sounds like you were doing personal training and using that brand, or maybe a different brand, but what were you doing prior to all of this?
Tell them the first brand name.
Oh goodness, yes, the original. Well, I'll back it up a little bit further. So when I graduated from college, I moved to Charlotte, and my sister lives in Charlotte, and actually works at the studio, and she's our studio client experience manager. So it's pretty cool. But she was actually my very, very, very first client when I moved down here. But I wanted to pursue my passion for dance, which led me to audition for the Top Cats Carolina Panther cheerleaders, made the team, and was trying to figure out, that's a part-time gig. What can I do full-time? My major was in communications and Spanish as a minor. So it's like, okay, where do I go from here? And first thing I found was, you know, something on LinkedIn, and it was like recruiting, IT recruiting. You know, I feel like everyone has a hand in something that's maybe not their dream, but it's like, I've got to pay the bill. So I did that for a few months and was cheering for the Panthers, and got my personal training certification on the side because I always had a passion for fitness and health. And so at that point I decided, all right, how can I pursue fitness in addition to these other two jobs? And I found a local studio in Charlotte that no longer is in business, but worked for them for about a year, teaching different spin classes, curating different workouts, and kind of experimenting with things that I found to be beneficial to clients. And over time, eventually decided, you know what, the IT recruiting is not for me. The fitness is great, but I think I can do it better. I think I have a handle on the programming and the back end business side where I can just do this on my own. So there we go. So at that point, I decided to quit the IT recruiting, still was cheering, and started doing one-on-one personal training out of my apartment complex in South End. And I also was doing home visits to local clients around the greater Charlotte city.
Now, real quickly, does the cheerleading, like, are you able to parlay networking opportunities there to land clients for the personal training business, or is there no real? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was great because, you know, there would be times where the Panthers have a signed contract with different trainers, but that was, you know, they were coming in once a month, and the girls were like, hey, you're a PT. Can you assist with me? Can I come on as a client? Can we do group workouts before practice? So it was an amazing opportunity to network. It's still been amazing on connections. It's a great organization, and it's really like a family dynamic. So that was a huge part for me to be able to feel confident to pursue that. And also it's one of those things where I think when you audition for a team like that, you know, it's like 1 in a million. People aren't, you know, you go in thinking, I'm not really going to make this. I'm going to try, you make it. And it's everyone who makes that squad. I think in any professional athletic setting, whether it's football or dance or basketball, from there, you kind of say, you know what, the sky's the limit. I can do this. And you have people who believe that and push you in that direction. So when I would say, you know what, to other girls on the team, you know what, I'm going out and doing my own business, they're like, hell yeah, we support you. What can we do to encourage that? Because we believe in you. So it was definitely kind of twofold in that I had a good support system and good connections to help me do it. And then from there, it was we branded the company was Personal Training by Marissa.
Boom.
Very creative.
How
Right?
creative, y'all.
This is why I don't do any branding and marketing. And then from there, over time, I think I was driving from a client's home and out somewhere like in Mint Hill, and I'm like, gosh, I really need to get creative on this name, because it's like I'm trying to create branding materials and it's just not hitting, it's just not sticking. And I just got married, and with the last name West, I'm like, it'd be really fun to have a play on words, and it just hit me one day, and I'm like, that's going to be it, and therefore
Very cool.
It was born.
Yeah, I tell people naming a company is harder than naming a kid, because like when you're naming a company, it has to be a name that you like, it has to be a name that you can get, and it has to be a name that you can find a URL for as well. And
Absolutely.
it's easy to get one or two, but getting all three of those is very difficult.
For the record, there is a furniture store in Arizona named West Kept Secret, and they actually have the Gmail that we wanted years ago. And people still email them to this day. They forward it to us.
And it was funny because when I came up with the name, I didn't even know that existed. I go on Google, I'm like, darn, there's a furniture company. But luckily the attorney who I worked with trademarking, she's like, you're good to go. If it's not in your industry, if it's not in fitness, let's do it. Let's trademark it, because somebody else might come along and do it.
That's awesome. I've been involved in 3 companies that went through a renaming exercise. Two were because of rebranding. One was because we didn't have the attorney look up a name that was phonetically very similar to ours, and it wasn't competitive with what we did, but it was in the same industry. And we ended up coming up with a better name for that business. But it's definitely great. You highlight the point of talking to the attorney. They help with legal things, but they also can give you background on, well, this is from a business perspective, what you should be thinking about. This is what we see in other industries. It's always very helpful. It's very rare that I feel happy about talking to an attorney beforehand, but I think on intellectual property,
every time we're like, not again, here we go.
How much is this going to cost? We already know the answer, but I'm
paying by the 6-minute phone call right now.
Right. But we when we have other young entrepreneurs reach out to us, and how did you do it? We're always like, listen, get your ducks in a row. Mm-hmm. Here's who we can recommend locally. But if you're in a different city, we know it's a pain in the behind, but you got to do it because you learn, you live and you learn, and that's definitely an important key. And a lot of times, every time it's so funny because every time we have a call with them, it's like we have these great ideas, and we're Heidi and I are ready, and then it's like kind of deflating, or
like, no, you can't do that.
Like, what? Or it's going to be really expensive, or you have your idea for the name of your company, and they tell you all the reasons why it's not going to work, and you're like, man, you just crushed my dream. But I do think it's important to kind of bring you back to earth and help you navigate the business waters in a safe way.
Yeah. Well, it's cheaper to catch those kind of mistakes earlier than later. And in our case, we had put a lot of equity in, built a lot of brand equity. We had 6 or 7 clients by then, and we'd really built around the brand. And even for us to just wave the white flag and say, hey, we're going to change our name, we racked up $20,000 in legal fees. And if we had just paid an attorney probably $1,500 up front to really explain the search that had been done on the name, we could have avoided that. And so I think it's always more expensive to address a problem up front than it is to when it becomes a real problem.
We've learned that ourselves.
Yeah, we have a good story on that.
Yeah.
We'll have to touch on it next time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
it's a long one.
Definitely. Because there've been so many things that I do want to cover. And I know we're on a little bit of a time constraint here. So was there an exact moment when you knew you were pursuing this, Marissa, where you said, hey, you're cheering, you're doing some personal training, and then you're realizing you want to start scaling it, or did you all along think this is going to be a full-time thing for me? Or was there a moment where you said, I can turn this into a scalable business?
Starting out, it was simply just, can I turn this into a full-time business with just me to just live and pay my bills? That was kind of like the start. How do I survive with this being full-time? I have the work ethic. I'm starting to build a clientele base. That's the goal. And then kind of when I got there, and I'm like, all right, I'm comfortable. I'm in a groove. Slowly, it was about price increases and finding more continuing education to validate those price increases with clients over time. But to be honest, I never dreamed it would be a scalable business where we would move into a brick and mortar space until Heidi came along. So it was always about getting by. Once we got by, just finding a good quality of life that I could enjoy what I was doing and make it a full-time career. Then when Heidi came on board, and she really helped me believe in myself, believe in what we were doing as a company, it was like, all right, she believes in me, and she is really truly a realist. And I'm like, wow, if she believes in me, we need to do the damn thing. And so there was really a moment when Heidi came on board and we had these discussions that the light bulb went off that we need to not only expand to Charlotte, but we need to get this thing going, because we are going to be the next Berries and the next Soul Cycle.
That's awesome. So there are plans, not the specifics, but a franchise type of thing or a licensing type of arrangement where other people can help you scale the business. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, the thought, I think at first, because we're a little bit of control freaks, is that we would actually like to open other locations ourselves and own them and run them and hire for them and get management in place in a few key cities. And then I think, once we've done the rat race in that and we know what it takes to open multiple studios, we would then consider, based on traction, if we would be willing to franchise and sell to other franchisees. Otherwise, I think, it's something that we would like to do together.
That's really cool. And this question is for either of you, since really the moment, the real founding was when the two of you came together, which highlights, I think, an awesome point of find a co-founder, don't just surround yourself with employees, but find a real co-founder or a real partner in a business. But what has surprised either of you most in this process, other than COVID, that surprised everybody? What things that you've discovered along the way would you say surprised you the most that you might not have expected?
In terms of bringing on a partner and just expansion in general?
Just building the business out and being out on your own and creating a scalable business. And you've made that transition from personal trainer to now a bricks and mortar location and employees and thoughts about how we go and start to expand this into other cities. Just what are there surprises along the way that you just would not have envisioned when you were starting out?
Sure.
Yeah. So what I would say is my personal biggest surprise is that when I got involved teaching at that other studio, I had a corporate job. And so I was like, I want to do more. And that was not an option there. So teaming up with Marissa, and it was funny, obviously this is her baby. She worked on it for so long. I kind of thought, am I ever going to be able to penetrate that circle of trust, that relinquishment of control? How can I really get in with her so that she knows that, like, I want to take this to the next level. I'm here for all the right reasons. I have her best interest and the business best interest at heart, even though I haven't been around it that long. I just found this passion for it. And when I go into something, I go full in. There's no half-ass anything. It's not full ass. So I think what surprised me is once I was able to get in with her in that sense, she truly valued my opinion. And to this day, like, the dreams that I have, like, she has. Or if I say, like, I think we should do this, or we need to hire more people, she's like, let's do it. Like 2 years ago, that wouldn't have been her response. Now I feel like she trusts me and she looks to me for certain things as I do, which was natural with her. And so I think it was really surprising that I went from a client to a trainer to someone that I feel like she leans on and I lean on, of course, within such a short amount of time. I think these types of relationships can take 10, 15 years. You went to college with them, you've been childhood friends, but we just became fast friends. We really get each other on a personal and professional level. And I think what has surprised me the most is how much she's let me in and leans on me to help make decisions and push the brand forward. And of course, I'm extremely thankful, but I just never know until I try. So I always ask or send the message and just see what she says. And yeah, I'm still surprised, like, okay, we're going to do this. She said it, she liked it. So I think that was what surprised me the most.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think for me, what surprised me the most is similar, but I think I've learned so much about what it takes to be a leader. I think that has changed over the years. I really have a intense, somewhat of a ball buster attitude. And it's like, if it's not done this way, it's not my way, it's the highway. So you're, that's really was my approach.
The nice way to call that is that you're results oriented.
There we go.
There we go.
We're going to start using that.
I like that. That's good. And so that's kind of been, was my approach. And when Heidi came on board, it really taught me a lot about stepping back, relinquishing control, being an active listener, taking into consideration other opinions, because your way is not always right. And the way to move the brand forward is by collaboration. And that for me has been the biggest surprise, because that has always been my mentality of, I know what I'm doing. This has been the way it's always worked. And truly changing that perspective has been very eye-opening for me, has really taught me how the both of us can collaborate and create a team that feels safe, that they feel comfortable coming to us, that we can foster and help grow, instead of telling them this is the way it needs to be. We really foster that, hey, if you have ideas, we're open to it, and really creating that collaborative environment. And that's been a huge shift for me personally and professionally.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to that don't end up scaling their business. When you're a very good individual contributor, it is nearly impossible, if you're an elite individual contributor, to make the jump to how do we build a team and make the sum of the parts, make the whole more than the sum of the parts, as they say. So congratulations on being able to do that. And again, this highlights for me why I stressed it to a lot of, in all sorts of different industries. I always stress, if you can have a co-founder or a partner, because it is lonely at the top. And if you don't have somebody that you trust at that level and you can't find them, it's just going to be that much harder and that much less fun. And it leads to personal growth too. Once people are able to let go of that need to control everything and to really focus on building the team, that's the biggest thing that I see that entrepreneurs get stuck and end up being frustrated and not scaling their business.
Absolutely. It is. We were actually having this conversation about feeling very lonely and not feeling understood by everyone else around you. And that's, I think, why we work so well together. It's like, wow, how could so-and-so not understand, the stress that this is bringing on to both of us or individually. And it's like, we really connect on that. And having that go-to person is just beyond important for personal growth and business growth.
Yeah, we joke all the time and say that we speak to each other the most out of anyone else in our life on a daily basis, but it's true. And sometimes it's just like, she gets me.
That's awesome. You can definitely sense the chemistry even through this Zoom recording. So I'm curious, your perspective. Do you think we know that there are, but what are some unique challenges that women founders face in any business in your mind?
That's a long list.
Yeah, I would say number one, I think specifically in fitness, our industry is very male driven. You see a lot of the successful brands, a lot of them are, male founders. And I think that a lot of times it is somewhat of a sexist industry, and that, women are not given as much clout or as much respect when we create an idea around fitness, because I think when people think of fitness, they think of professional athletes, and then there's just, again, it's just a very male weightlifting, CrossFit, a very male dominated
it is, but it's funny because I would argue on the local level in Charlotte, all the celebrity CrossFit athletes are female.
That's very true. I agree with that.
But same, but she's saying too, like, we have trouble getting men into our studio because they're like, oh, I'm not going to do like Pilates reformer and like a treadmill. But when a dude comes in, we absolutely whoop his ass. And it's super humbling in the best way. But we're like, everyone can do this workout. I mean, why it went to just women, I have no idea. We love our clients. We're happy. But yeah, it's interesting to see why that happened.
Right. And I think we even did a change of our logo when we opened our studio, because our team kind of said, our design team was like, hey, this could create a little bit of a feminine vibe. Let's try to switch it up as we take this to the masses and see what we can deliver. But that's been a big barrier for us, is bringing men in and having them understand the importance of the cardio, the strength, and Pilates kind of all fused together. So that's definitely been a barrier for us that we've been trying to break down and create on social media, showing all body types and especially men as well.
Another challenge I feel that we face, and I think just fitness professionals in general face, is how saturated the industry is. It's so funny because until I was in it, I just thought, oh, I'm a member at this gym, or I went and worked out here, end of story. But once you're in it, you really start to kind of have a pulse on what's going on around you in the city you're in. Or when I was traveling for business, the studios that they offered on different apps and stuff when I would go and visit. And it is funny because there's so many offerings just in Charlotte alone that it's like, what are you doing to stand out? How are you going to have that one it factor that makes them give you their fitness budget of money to you every month instead of X, Y, and Z outside of you? And to further the challenge, the pandemic hit. So then it was like, everyone's doing Zooms, everyone's doing on-demand streaming. Peloton rose. I mean, I just regret not even investing in them prior to COVID. But I mean, then you're competing with a massive brand that can send a bike to your house and you can just walk out to your garage and get your workout in. And so it was like, I think one of the biggest challenges is fitness is bigger and better than ever right now, but especially in this last year or so when we've been trying to open. So we're continuously inventing the wheel in the sense of what can we do next? How can we portray ourselves? What's going to give us that it factor that no other fitness company in the world has? And while I think that we have it, there's certain parts of our interval and the methodology that we've trademarked that have it. We have to constantly be up with that because, you just can't sleep on it or the next person's going to come and pass you by.
Absolutely. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen with CrossFit. There was obviously a lot of fallout in 2020 related to some statements that were made. And also there's been a lot of confusion around the CrossFit games and what's happening there. I think, and anytime you have a recession, I think somebody's out there that's hungrier and has a better way of competing inside of an industry. But I think especially with the opening right now, in terms of all the turmoil within CrossFit, I suspect we're going to see 3 or 4 the next Berries or Burn boot camps or Orange Theory. I feel like there's going to be a handful of those coming out. And I agree with you. Fitness is amazing. I mean, I went and did a bar workout for the first time a year ago, and like you just described, I was the only guy in the class and got my ass kicked. And
but there's muscles burning you had never felt before.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like there's so many of those concepts that are out there at a small level. It'll be interesting to see what the next 3 or 4 of these things are 5 years from now.
Yeah, one of them will be us.
I believe that for sure. So I know we've only got a little bit more time here, but I'd like to get back to the, exercise, health, fitness realm of things. You've talked about combining cardio with strength and with Pilates. You mentioned hitting a bag. Do you introduce weights in the form of dumbbell or barbells or resistance bands, or what is the strength component typically of what you do?
Absolutely. So what we kind of break the categories into. So real quick, I'll just kind of break it down. So the cardio component would be the treadmill, and we also have the Rogue Echo bike as well, which we love.
My favorite.
So good.
Torture device.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said it's quite the torture device.
It is. Yes. Always like it's literally Satan's tricycle. So so we've got the treadmill, the air runners. Then we have the Rogue Echo bike, and then we have body weight cardio. Burpees. The Rogue block will do body weight cardio on there. So that's kind of like our cardio component. Our strength component is considered the boxing bag. We consider that more strength and cardio. And we consider the TRX also a strength-based piece of equipment. And then we have our Pilates pieces of equipment, which would be the Pilates reformer, the ballet bar, and then the Pilates springboard. So those are kind of like our 3 machine categories that fall under the cardio strength Pilates. And then of course we have body weight props that we would fall into specific categories. So for example, we have hand weights that are used for, some of it's for cardio, some of it's for strength, some of it's for Pilates. Like if you're on the Pilates reformer doing a lunge series, we're going to add 8-pound dumbbells that you're holding overhead. So, we'll throw those props into different categories. Then we have bands. There are infinity bands that have 2 loops on either side that typically fall into our Pilates category. Theraballs for ab support. We also use ab mats. We use traditional resistance bands, that you're wrapping around feet. And so we basically think about every body weight prop that falls into a specific category. How are we using it? Are we using it more in a Pilates component and more of a strength component, or more of a cardio component? So we're kind of using a little bit of everything, and then we're dialing them into those different 3 categories.
And truth be told, if you're coming to the workout to lift weights, you wouldn't come to our class. I mean, there's just so much more to it, but our weights go all the way up to 10-pound hand weights. And then we have kettlebells as well. No barbells or anything like that. Got it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like lifting things with big barbells, but I'm increasingly wondering, is it really, if you're trying to squeeze the most amount of people in to get the most benefit with the least chance of injury, what can't you get out of kettlebells and lighter weights? And it's a real limited number of things. I think, a lot of guys lift more out of ego than anything, myself included.
I couldn't agree with you.
Agree. And I think, again, financially, it doesn't make sense in space wise. And I do think you really have to have a background to be able to functionally teach. And we just don't have that, 1, that background, or 2, that, the ability with clients to break it down. How do you perform a back squat correctly? That is let
alone an overhead squat, right? Or a snatch
right. Like you literally need an hour to break that movement down and continuously practice it. And that's just not where our methodology falls in. And we would say, hey, go check out CrossFit or a fundamentals class, because that's not going to be our jam.
Yep. And I've been to Barry's where, there's 50 people in class and the instructor is like, all right, everyone grab a 20-pound hand weight, and this is how you're gonna do the snatches, go. And I'm over here like, I do not want to hurt myself, but I'll try it. But there's just not that hands-on, helpful, how can you modify, how can you advance it style. It's just like, here's what it looks like. You have 5 seconds, go. And we're just more in the safety / toning, shredding, cardio, leaning out the muscles. If you want to, when you're saying the ego with men, I think to myself, how often can a guy go to a Gold's gym and lift weights, and your body, so you do it every day, you do back day or leg day, and then it's like, okay, you have 3% body fat and your muscles are huge. So where are you going to go from here?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What's the point?
And one thing that I think is a benefit for our workout and very different is with all of the different intervals, you're always hitting the 6 machines, or 6 to 8 machines. You're going to hit them multiple times, anywhere from 3 to 6 times. So we always tell clients, we're like, hey, the first 2 rounds, this is just feeling out the movement. You're getting comfortable with it. If you've never planked on a reformer before, or a Pilates springboard, this is your chance. Feel it out. We're going to adjust you. We're going to find those hand-on corrections. Then by round 3, you're an expert. You know what the heck is going on. You're able to really take up those corrections that we gave you and really implement them. And so it's almost like a progression throughout the workout. They're getting more comfortable. And by the end, they're like, all right, I'm a rock star at this center plank on the reformer. I feel good. And now when I know I come back next time, I'm going to be able to execute even better. So it's not like it's a one and done. You're one time on that and you never get a chance to hit it again. We always tell them multiple chances, and it's going to allow your body to find that mind-body connection, because that's really what it is. And most people who don't have enough athletic background, they aren't able to do that in one round or one opportunity,
Yep. Absolutely. And sorry, I'm taking a few notes here because I wanted to try something with you here. I want to talk about two things that I could choose between in a workout. And if you could just give me your thoughts on how I should be thinking about them. Not that there's one that's better than the other, but how should I be thinking about incorporating? Maybe the answer is both, but in different settings. So you mentioned that you have single arm weights, or I'm guessing typical dumbbells, and then you also have kettlebells. How should one think about dumbbell training versus kettlebell training, and in the context of your overall approach to high intensity interval training?
Absolutely. Honestly, in my opinion, for our specific workout, they're very interchangeable. And the reason being is It's simply for us, the ease of our quick rotations. What can the client pick up quicker that's going to be safe for them on the machine that they're executing? So for example, if you're on the rogue block doing a split block jump and you're holding 2 5-pound weights that have more of a chance to potentially slip out of your hands, for us, it's going to make more sense to hold a 10-pound kettlebell in your hands, and there's less chance and there's more fluidity with the movement. So for us, they're 100% interchangeable. There's not a major difference, unless of course we're doing kettlebell swings. I mean, that's going to be a little bit more fluid than dumbbells. You can still do both,
Right.
but it's just the fluidity and the quick transitions that are going to make sense in our workout.
Weight is weight.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of what works to get from station to station quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times we'll use kettlebells for farmers carry,
Yeah.
and it seems. I mean, I feel like I can kettlebell carry a dumbbell much more easily, and so I feel like I'm better off with the kettlebell. But for a lot of things, they're quite interchangeable for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. For example, like when we do we don't do the full Turkish getup. We do Turkish roll-ups. It's like a half version that we do. That's more core driven. We found, this might seem silly, but people with their Apple Watches and flipping it over is uncomfortable. So it's like, you know what? We're going to use a 10-pound dumbbell. It's going to be just as great. No big deal. So we've experimented with the different movements and what makes sense based on just general feedback from clients and from us trying it together with trial and error.
I'm trying it. She's making me try it. She's
Pretty
not
much.
trying it. I'm just kidding. She tries them, but then she puts me through it too.
So how about same kind of question, but with burpees and kettlebell swings, since we talked about kettlebell swings? So like where do you think about those two? Do they solve the same kind of problem, or is one more core, or do the two complement each other well, or how? Because to me, they're both exercises where if I want to just do one movement and just go do just that, only that movement, because I've got a short amount of time, like I could do a Tabata interval of either and get a great almost total body workout plus cardio, right?
Yeah. And I want Marissa to speak to the way that West Kept Secret does burpees versus like how like a CrossFit gym would do burpees, because we feel that, you know, our burpees are more than just kind of like that quick worm cardio. There's a lot more technicality to it, and you get a little bit more upper body.
Yeah, it's funny because we have a lot of people who do come from CrossFit, or we have a lot of trainers or clients, and they're like, hey, I'm bringing my boyfriend. He's a big CrossFit guy. And, you know, we start on the mic. If there are burpees in the workout, we always say, this is the West Kept Secret way. You're going to start hip width distance. You're going to squat down, plant your hands, pop back to a plank. From here, you're doing a full chest to ground push-up with the nipple line touching. Thighs and hips do not touch, which is completely different. It's a much more of a strict push-up, driving up and then popping up, adding the explosive hop at the top. And, you know, a lot of times the guys are repping out. I'm like, whoa, slow down. Thighs aren't touching, hips aren't touching. We want more of a strict push-up than speed. But in terms of kettlebell swings versus burpees, depending on what the focus is. So if I'm programming burpees in for more of a cardio approach, I might take out the push-up and just have clients doing a half burpee or a plank burpee or a plank burpee with boxing punches. We have a plank burpee tuck jump. I mean, we have hundreds of burpee variations that we have. Or if it's more of a strength-driven body weight exercise, and it's more of an upper body focus, I'm going to program that, and that's going to be the focus. So I think of burpees either more in a cardio aspect or of a upper body / core total body weight exercise. So I kind of break it down into two variations. Kettlebell swings, I think of it kind of the same way. Am I going lighter weight and I'm repping it out quicker for more cardio, or am I going heavier and focusing more on a total body burn, upper body core focus, a little bit more of that hinge deadlift style? I'm working my hamstring. So I think for me, it's all about the way I'm thinking about it. And then I gauge where that falls into our workout. I think both are great, but I think they're very different based on the way that you plan to program it.
Awesome. Now that all makes sense to me, and I agree with all of that. What about, you mentioned that you have an Echo bike, and then you've got the well, I forget what it's called again, the air. Yeah, the treadmill, which that's quite a torture device too. But how do you think about those two differently? What are the benefits of one versus the other, in your opinion?
Sure. So first, we originally only had the treadmill. We didn't have the bike in our workout, and the bikes were coming in more as of an injury piece of equipment. Hey, if you can't run, you're afraid of hopping on and off the treadmill. It's, self-powered. I know for a lot of people that can be like, whoa, that's a little bit scary. Hey, the bike's right there, go for it. That was kind of our initial thought. And over time, it's like, damn, no, we're going to add this in as double cardio. So we're going to throw the treadmill in, and then we're going to focus on adding the bike in midway through the workout to keep the heart rate up or give a little punch of a little something extra. So they're both cardio components, but of course they have different focuses. The treadmill is more about just you're going all out, hard in the paint, burning calories and getting that heart rate above, around a 170, 180, so that, you're burning calories. And then the bike is more, to me, of a lower body, upper body, and core, kind of like a total body machine, but it depending on what you're focusing on. So I'll walk by the bike and I'll kind of tell people, for the next 30 seconds, we're gonna pull your arms off. You're just gonna go hard in the paint for your legs. Or I want you to kind of use a little bit more upper body, or I want you to think about engaging your core more than anything on and focus less on the RPM. So it's, again, depending on what the focus is, is it more of an ab day that we're looking at all of our different machines are kind of focusing more on the core? Okay, well, we're going to go 30 seconds of legs on the road bike, 30 seconds of arms, and we'll switch it up and we'll have a focus on the bike. Or is it more just an overall cardio focus where we want you using arms, legs, abs, go, let's get your speed up to a 25 or a 30. You know what I mean? So It really depends on what the focus is for the day based on the program.
Very cool. Same kind of question, Pilates and yoga, for instance, because some people that I used to think somehow they were related to each other before I actually did both of them, and then realized they're almost nothing to do, but they seem to be like they seem to both be workout forms that are much more popular with women than with men, for one.
Yeah, I think that Pilates started as, well, I'm not in his brain, the guy who founded it, but I do think that a lot of men have found Pilates to be a more of a rehab resource. If they were bodybuilding or had an injury from a sport, just kind of moving in that slow and controlled way on a Pilates reformer is helping to rehab that body part or whatever it is, that injury that you're, trying to fix. Yoga is, the pulling apart of the muscles, the lean, the stretching, the recovery. But it can get intense if you're doing it in a hot room, or you're maybe moving through it more in a powerful, faster way. So I can see how people see it as not interchangeable, but it's similar. Very similar. But we just feel that the strength and the building of the muscle is more beneficial on a reformer. And, we're just not, you can even tell from our personalities, having a yoga component just wouldn't make any sense for us or for the method itself. And then do you want to touch on that?
Sure. And eventually we have talked about adding potentially a recovery based class onto our schedule. We actually do recovery on our streaming.
Yep.
Again, coming from a dance background and a stretching background, I do have that. I think it's very important. It's very overlooked. So that's something we want to add. It wouldn't be yoga because we're not yoga certified, but it'd be more of a recovery deep stretch for based on what we work that week from our method. But in terms of Pilates, yeah, definitely came from Joseph Pilates created Pilates in terms of rehab. It was a machine was created in World War II for people who had lost their legs or lost limbs, and they were trying to rehab their muscles. Then for us, how it kind of integrated into the workout is, I feel like so many workouts, and I'll use Barry's, for example. You go to a class, you do cardio for 20, 30 minutes, and you're doing strength for 20, 30 minutes. And it's like, hey, let's get on this block and let's do some crunches. That's your abs. And it's like lackluster. And so I felt like the cardio and the strength of like the upper body or the legs were really great. But that Pilates component of the foundation of everything starting from your core, I felt like overall in the fitness industry, that was missing into a workout. So it's like, you know what? Let's keep the Pilates springboard and the Pilates reformer as the foundational core pieces of equipment that are going to engage your core in addition to potentially working other muscle groups. So when we have the Pilates reformer and you're working a plank, it's way harder to do a plank on that machine versus on the floor. So now you're actually able to truly engage your core muscles. And then an extra bonus, you're getting a little bit of inner thigh and leg, you're getting a little bit of shoulder, bicep, back, but the foundation starts from your core. And that's truly what makes us different. Because anyone, in my opinion, can do cardio, can do strength, can do Pilates, they can kind of fudge it and integrate it together. But if you don't have those machines, you're missing out on the fundamental start of your core. And I mean, again, no disrespect to CrossFit. Hey, I'm a big fan, but I think it is, I don't think it's, I don't think that saying you're doing an overhead squat or you're doing a burpee or you're doing a kettlebell swing only, yes, it engages the core, no doubt, no question in terms of functionality, but are you really engaging the specific muscles that you want to hone in on a burpee? Probably not. So how do we do that? And that's what we do at West Cap Secret. Let's add in specific areas of the core that we want to focus on while using those machines.
Very
so no
cool.
shade to CrossFit, but that's
I
how
also
we
think
do
there's
it.
like an element of like shocking the body. Like if you're going to go from, for example, if the rotation is like treadmill to reformer, et cetera, like you're sprinting on the treadmill for a minute, then you have to come to the reformer, catch your breath, and then work in a very slow way.
Yes, we add tempo often into our workouts.
Then you go to, let's say, like a body weight ab, and then you're trying to like pulse it. And then you go to the bike. It's like fast cardio, slow ab, fast cardio. And then it changes every single day. So it's like your body will never get used to it. People come into the class, they have zero idea what to expect. They don't know the interval. They don't know the moves. They don't know how hard they have to go. And so every time someone steps in the class, they have no idea what they're going to get.
That mental challenge is what, I mean, to me, that's so huge in terms of keeping you engaged. And it's just a benefit of exercise outside of looking better naked or losing weight, or getting stronger. I think that mental challenge for me, it didn't work the same way as what you're describing, but the mental challenge of every CrossFit workout for the first year that I did it, I would get halfway through it and say, I don't know if I can finish. And I had to mentally get tougher to do it. I think there's a lot to that for sure.
Yeah. What I think is funny is our classes start at 5:30 a.m. and there's a 12-hour cancellation policy. So even if your friend got done at 6:20 and texted you and you were in the 6 p.m. and you didn't want to take that interval, you got to show up or you're going to get that late fee. So we definitely try to keep it under wraps. We have people that text or DM all the time, like, what's the interval tomorrow? I just want to see it. And we're like, nope, you got to show up to find out.
Yeah. And I do think what Heidi was saying, that the other key feature that really makes us different is adding in the tempo. So we clarify that in the demo. I'm again, like with CrossFit, I'm sure you're showing all the movements up front, how to do it. And then it's like, all right, we're going in 3, 2, 1. We do the same thing, introduce ourselves, go over COVID protocols, go through the stations and go through the demo. And we'll say treadmill, because we're doing 6 rounds, it's only 1 minute, it's all out max effort. We want you to start at, a challenging pace, and then every 30 seconds increase by 0.5 for whatever that looks like to you for what your PR is. And then we'll say, we're moving to the reformer. The reformer is slow and controlled movements. Then we'll say, hey, we're going to the bag. We're back to hard on the paint, all out. And then we clarify what the tempo looks like. In some workouts, the tempo might be a focus on every machine except for cardio. What I mean by that, we might say it's going to be full range, where you're doing all the way in of a movement, like full range squat, all the way down, ass to the grass, all the way up. And then we'll say for the next round, it's going to be pulsing, just down an inch, up an inch. And we have those tempo change workouts as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Meaning you got to come try it, John. I think you'd really.
I do. That's what I was just thinking. I have to try this workout out.
I think with again, coming from your background and like loving CrossFit, I feel like you'd come and be like, wow, this has some of that like competitive nature. It has some of that, there are some crossovers and some similarities, but I think you'd be shocked and humbled, just like we would be if we go and do a CrossFit class.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like being humbled. I like going into something new, and that not that I feel like I've at all mastered CrossFit, but it isn't the same mental challenge. I can kind of work on my fast brain, but I love new things where I'm so awkward and so bad at it and kind of getting to improve at it.
Yes. Yes, same. It's like, I want to go, and that's kind of part of what it was with creating the workout is I want to experiment. I want to see everything that's out there. What do I like from this workout? What do I not like? And how can we pull those together to create the West Kept Secret methodology?
Very cool. I know we've only got a couple more minutes here, so I was hoping to talk a little bit of, maybe you could just speak a little bit to nutrition. How important is nutrition to overall fitness and health in your mind? And are there specific diet plans that you recommend your clients look into, or certain approaches?
Well, I mean, first of all, she's going to say definitely a good 30-day reset, no alcohol, because that's what she hit me with back in 2017. That's just one of the many things. But
that is cruel in a pandemic, 30 days without alcohol.
It is tough. It is tough. I think so. I do have a nutrition background. I think it really depends on what the client is trying to accomplish. So we do have one-on-one personal training where we do food journaling, and we do tailoring on all of those things, and we look at macros and so on and so forth. But for our general group classes, people will ask us, in passing, hey, what do you do? And it's like, well, you really should be a PT client because it's a lot of work to tell you what we do. But in general, we say, Heidi and I, this is what works for us. Feel free to take that approach. And if it works for you, great. But my philosophy is, what we found is high protein, low carb, low sugar works for our bodies, works for what most of our clients want to achieve their max aesthetic appearance, in addition to max energy throughout the day. Because that's what it's all about, is fueling your body for the next workout or fueling you for your day. So that's our approach. But I think that people get so stuck on this one style of nutrition works. Like, I know CrossFit was married with paleo and for a very long time. And it's like, that might work for somebody, Whole30 might work for somebody. But in general, if you can have a high protein and a relatively low carb, low sugar approach, that in general, and keep it clean. And what I mean by clean is
80-20.
Right. A good 80-20, and a good rule of thumb when clients are like, what does clean mean? If you can fish it, if you can farm it, if you can hunt it,
gather it,
you're pretty much in a good, safe spot. So I think we really take nutrition and we overcomplicate it when it really doesn't have to be so complicated. And we're an 80-20 approach. We eat a lot of shit on, couple times a week, and we're
gonna go get Thai food tonight.
Yeah, we do all the bad things, but you gotta live. But if you want results, you have to find structure and accountability, period.
Very cool. How one last question, and a lot of what I'm hearing and seeing, and a lot of what seems to become popular is less about what you eat and when you eat. So do you yourselves do much intermittent fasting? Do you see success with your clients? And I'm guessing it's going to be a similar answer to, it really depends on the person, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, it really depends on the person, but we love, our approach is definitely, hey, this is what we do. This is what works for us. Give it a try. Mm-hmm. I think it's really important when you say that to somebody to, I'm not going to hit them with, hey, last week I did an 18-hour fast, go try it. I mean, that's going to be very, tough and just really discouraging to hear. Cause it's like, shoot, I can't do that. So yeah, I've done it kind of every intermittent fast in between. I've done 12, 14, 18, 24, played with it with my body. So what I typically will tell people is what we do every day is just a good old easy 12-hour fast. That's what most people are doing in general. And I'm a big fan of eating earlier in the evening, eating earlier in the morning. That works for me. Heidi's a little bit on the
little bit later.
She's a little bit later, and it's great because we each have our own. I'm typically dinner at 5:30, 4:30, and then I wake up, breakfast at 4:30, 5:30, and that works. Just a good 12-hour fast. But absolutely, if you feel like you've kind of been on a binge, or it's been the holidays, you need kind of like a hard reset, a good 14, 16-hour fast is definitely a good thing to try. But I always recommend to people, if you're not doing a 12-hour fast, try moving your eating up maybe a little bit earlier. Try the 12 hours. If that feels good, let's push it to a 13, 14, see how your body responds and go from there. That has been really successful for the general population who's asked us that, who aren't PT clients, where we can be monitoring them every step of the way.
And you can do it in your sleep, right? So eat early, go to bed, and then just don't eat for the first couple hours that you're awake, and that's your 12 hours.
Absolutely. And I've read a lot lately about the benefits of extending your fast a couple of hours past your workout. Even there's just a lot of great things that they think happen with your hormones when you are fasting after a workout.
Yeah, and what I kind of tell everybody, and like a great easy analogy to use is, if you're constantly just shutting your laptop screen and you never actually restart it, that's a great analogy for your metabolism. Sometimes you just need a hard reset to get things moving and not having that, the Mac circle of death going. And you just need that hard reset, and that's going to get things going and moving at a good, quick pace that's going to get you back on track.
Good. Well, thank you. We've covered everything that I wanted to cover.
I was like, this has actually probably been one of my favorite podcasts, because it's not just about us, it's actually diving into some of the exercise science, which I'm very passionate about, and trying to get people to understand the methodology, how it was developed, and how and why it works. So this is really fun for me and for us.
Definitely.
Well, I'd love to come do a workout or two, and then maybe we do a follow-up and you explain why I got my ass kicked so badly.
Love it.
Let's do it fresh so that you're still very sore.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I'll definitely take you up on that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
This is so wonderful.
It's been great.
All right. Take care. Have a good day.
Have a good one.